It was a cold and quiet night. The stars were hidden behind thick clouds, and the Garden of Gethsemane was still. Jesus stood with his closest friends, the disciples. But even in that silence, Jesus knew what was coming. He had prayed to the Father just moments before, asking if the suffering ahead could pass from him. Yet, he also said, "Not my will, but yours be done." Suddenly, footsteps echoed through the olive trees. The disciples looked up. Lights from torches glowed in the distance. Voices grew louder. A crowd was coming, and they were not friendly. Leading them was Judas, one of Jesus' own disciples, the very man who had eaten, walked, and lived beside him for years. But tonight, Judas had come to betray him. Judas stepped forward, walked up to Jesus, and gave him a kiss on the cheek. It was the signal. The soldiers behind him moved quickly. They came with swords, clubs, and ropes. They were here to arrest Jesus. The disciples were shocked. Their master, the one who had calmed storms and raised the dead, was being treated like a criminal. Some of them panicked, others froze, but one of them, Peter, acted fast. Peter didn't wait. He reached for the sword he had hidden in his robe. With a shout, he pulled it out and swung at the nearest man. That man was Malchus, a servant of the high priest. Peter's sword struck his head, slicing off his right ear. Blood poured down Malchus's face. He screamed in pain and fell to the ground, clutching his ear. Everything stopped for a moment. The soldiers stepped back, surprised. The disciples were unsure what would happen next, and Peter stood with his sword raised, breathing heavily. But Jesus, calm and unshaken, spoke clearly. "Stop this." His voice cut through the tension like a blade. Then he did something no one expected. Jesus stepped toward Malchus, the man who had come to help arrest him. He knelt beside him, reached out his hand, and gently touched the place where the ear had been cut. And right there, in front of everyone, his enemies and his friends, Jesus healed him. The bleeding stopped. The pain vanished. A new ear appeared where the old one had been. Malchus looked around, stunned. He touched his head in disbelief. He was whole again. Jesus didn't scold Peter for defending him, but he did make it clear that violence wasn't his way. He said, "Those who live by the sword will die by the sword." This moment was not about fighting. It was about fulfilling a greater purpose. Even though he had just been attacked, and even though he was about to be taken away and hurt, Jesus still showed love. He didn't hate the soldiers. He didn't curse Judas. He didn't run. He chose peace. He chose healing. Malchus had come to take Jesus as a prisoner, but he left with a miracle. That night, he didn't just witness Jesus' power. He experienced it personally. Imagine how he must have felt. He came to arrest a man he didn't know much about, someone the priests called dangerous. But instead of hate, he was shown kindness. Instead of being ignored in his pain, he was healed. That one touch from Jesus changed everything. And for Peter, that moment was a lesson. He thought protecting Jesus meant using a sword. But Jesus was showing him that true strength comes through love, mercy, and obedience, not violence. This small event, just 2 verses long in the Bible, speaks loudly about who Jesus is. Even in his darkest hour, when people came to hurt him, he chose to heal. He showed that his mission was not to destroy, but to restore. That night in Gethsemane, under the dark sky, as soldiers dragged Jesus away, a man named Malchus stood with both ears intact and a heart likely full of questions. Who was this man who healed him? Why would someone show kindness in a moment of betrayal? The answer was clear. Jesus was not just a teacher or a prophet. He was the Son of God. And even in the face of betrayal and arrest, his love never failed. This is the Jesus we follow, the one who heals when he could hurt, who forgives when he could judge, and who brings peace even in the middle of conflict. In one simple touch, he showed the world that mercy is stronger than the sword.